You awaken in the vast silence of space, your body weightless, drifting gently among scattered rocks that float like seeds scattered by a cosmic gardener. Each asteroid is a relic, a fragment of a time before Earth itself had formed, before oceans lapped against continents, before life whispered into being. They hover slowly, tumbling lazily, their surfaces pocked with craters and scarred by the echoes of ancient collisions. You feel a soft thrill, a quiet wonder that something so small, so unassuming, carries the memory of the entire solar system. The void is dark, yet starlight glimmers faintly on metallic veins that thread through the rocks. You lean closer, your mind tracing the silver paths that wind like rivers frozen in time. They catch the light for only a moment before fading into shadow, a secret shimmer hinting at what lies beneath. You imagine these veins are not just metal but stories of creation, of violent heat, and the slow, patient accumulation of atoms over billions of years. Your heartbeat slows to match the rhythm of the tumbling stones, each spin a quiet lullaby, each shadow a gentle invitation to explore. You drift near one particularly large asteroid, its shape uneven, almost organic, as if the rock itself breathed quietly through the void. Your mind wanders, imagining the first moment the stone formed, tiny grains of dust colliding in slow, graceful arcs, sticking together under gravity's patient tug. Each particle contains the whispers of stars long gone, their energy folded into the nucleus of every atom. You inhale slowly, feeling the weight of time collapse into a single luminous thought. The universe is patient, deliberate, and endlessly curious, just like you. Tiny fragments break off from the surface, spinning in arcs you can barely follow. You watch them with a gentle fascination, noticing how they move, how they respond to gravity's subtle pull. Even here, far from Earth, rules govern the dance. You feel a quiet sense of reassurance that the universe is orderly, even in its apparent chaos. Your mind drifts lazily along the curves of the asteroid's surface, imagining what secrets it might conceal. Frozen water in hidden pockets, rare metals tucked beneath layers of dust, perhaps even traces of molecules that could tell the story of life itself. The silence around you is almost tactile. It wraps softly around your ears and your thoughts, creating a space where curiosity can breathe freely. You feel the gentle pressure of the void, not as emptiness, but as a canvas, a place where ideas drift weightlessly, untangled from urgency or distraction. You realize that touching these asteroids directly would be delicate work, far more than a simple grasp or scoop. Each movement could send particles floating, tumbling, forever lost to the vastness. You sense that safety in this strange environment is as much about patience as it is about precision. As you observe the rocky surface, you notice tiny craters that catch the light differently, their shadows stretching like fingers across the stone. You trace them slowly with your gaze, imagining the ancient collisions that made them, imagining meteors striking with silent violence billions of years ago. Each mark is a reminder of the asteroid's journey through space, a record of countless near misses, cosmic encounters, and quiet years spent wandering the void. You feel a gentle empathy for these stones, for their patient, enduring existence. You shift slightly, letting yourself drift closer to another asteroid that spins with a slower, more deliberate rhythm. You study its texture, noting differences between rough surfaces and smooth, metallic patches. Your mind begins to connect the patterns, intuitively sensing where the rock might be soft enough to mine, where hidden metals could gleam beneath layers of stone. Even in the absence of touch, your curiosity feels tactile, as if your mind can gently explore the contours, tracing the invisible threads of structure beneath the surface. The deeper you look, the more you realize that the asteroid is not just an object to be mined, it is a story to be understood. Every surface feature, every gleaming vein, every floating dust particle is a syllable in a quiet cosmic language. You feel your thoughts slowing, your body swaying gently as though cradled by the vacuum itself. The universe, vast and indifferent, suddenly feels intimate, personal, a place where curiosity and patience are rewarded with whispers of knowledge. And yet, even as you float among these silent stones, you wonder how humans could ever reach them safely. How could a machine, no matter how clever, interact with these delicate relics without disturbing the intricate dance they have maintained for billions of years? You imagine a robotic hand extending slowly, tentatively, like a careful caress, testing the surface, sensing the weight and balance, learning without harming. The idea of intelligent tools, moving with thoughtfulness and care, begins to take root in your mind, a gentle anticipation of what is to come. The void stretches endlessly, but your thoughts begin to follow a subtle thread toward the next discovery. You realize that touching these stones is not just about science or resources. It is about respect, about understanding the quiet rules of a world that has existed long before we arrived. You imagine robots moving among these rocks, their arms precise, their sensors alert, bridging the gap between human curiosity and the patience of the universe. Your mind rests on this image, a soft comfort, a lullaby of purpose and care, as you drift slowly toward the next wonder, where machines meet the quiet patience of space itself. And in that thought, the mystery of mechanical hands and careful movements begins to stir, whispering softly of dreams yet to unfold among the stars. You imagine a machine suspended in the void, its body delicate but deliberate, moving with an elegance you almost recognize as human. These are not clumsy tools. They are carefully designed extensions of curiosity, built to dance among rocks and dust where your body cannot reach. Each joint bends and stretches with precision, guided by invisible calculations, a silent understanding of weight, balance, and fragility. You feel a quiet admiration for these creations, knowing they are born of both imagination and meticulous science. The robotic arms extend slowly, almost meditatively, toward an asteroid that hovers nearby. You watch as tiny grippers open and close, as sensors probe the surface without disturbing its rhythm. There is no hurry here, no rush, only patient exploration, a conversation of touch between intelligence and matter. You notice how the robot's tools respond to the subtlest shift, how the surface's texture guides movement, how even a floating dust particle can alter the dance. You feel the tension in the void dissolve, replaced by the calm symmetry of purpose and care. Each sensor on the robot is like an eye that never blinks. It sees shapes, measures temperature, detects chemical composition, and listens to vibrations that your ears could never perceive. You marvel at this, realizing that what the machine perceives is a world layered with subtle signals, a language of rocks and energy that speaks only through careful attention. You let your mind drift into the idea that intelligence need not be embodied in flesh to understand, to interact, to respect. There is a strange comfort in this thought, a reassurance that curiosity can stretch far beyond the limits of your body. You imagine the engineers and scientists who conceived these machines, their minds weaving together mechanics, computation, and careful observation. Each decision they made is like a gentle note in a larger melody, an understanding that in space, one wrong move can send particles spinning away forever. You sense a quiet harmony between human thought and robotic skill, a dance in which mistakes are minimized not through speed or force, but through patience and sensitivity. Your own breathing slows, aligning with the rhythm of this cosmic choreography. The asteroid beneath the robot seems to respond to its presence, not in life, but in the subtle adjustments required by physics. Tiny pieces of rock tremble slightly as the mechanical hand brushes against them. You feel the resonance of this interaction, a delicate feedback loop that requires attentiveness, gentle correction, and an understanding of the asteroid's character. The robot is not imposing its will but listening carefully, moving in tandem with the stone as if it were part of a slow, graceful ballet. You drift closer in your imagination, noticing the interplay of shadows across metal and stone. Each reflection from the robot's polished joints catches the distant starlight, glimmering like a distant signal. You wonder at the quiet intelligence contained in every hinge, every motor, every circuit. They have no feelings, yet they embody careful thought, translating human intent into action in an environment where a single misstep could be permanent. You feel a gentle awe at this union of imagination, engineering, and the patience of the void. The asteroid's surface, though rocky and rough, seems to invite observation. The robot's tools trace the contours of ridges and crevices with soft, deliberate movements. You imagine each mechanical extension as a finger brushing lightly over a surface that has existed undisturbed for billions of years. You feel the weight of that patience, the long history embedded in every grain of dust. And as the machine explores, you sense that the boundary between human and robot blurs, that curiosity itself flows freely through metal and mind alike. Tiny sparks of dust drift upward as the robot's grippers shift, each particle catching starlight and reflecting it for a fleeting instant. You focus on these minuscule dances, feeling the universe expand and contract in slow waves of movement. It is quiet, almost sacred, a reminder that even in emptiness, there is a rhythm, a pulse, a silent order. You breathe along with it, letting the motion become a gentle meditation, a lullaby of precision, curiosity, and care. You begin to consider the question that hums softly in the background of your thoughts. How do humans create machines capable of operating safely in such fragile environments? You picture engineers running simulations, predicting outcomes, teaching machines to react with patience and subtlety. Each algorithm is a quiet promise that even in the vastness of space, we can approach with respect, with humility, with a careful mind. You sense the elegance of this process, a soft choreography where knowledge guides movement rather than force. Your attention drifts to the energy that drives these mechanical hands. Tiny currents hum through circuits, powering motion with smooth precision. You imagine this energy as a quiet stream, flowing through each component, connecting human thought to robotic action. You feel the presence of intention in these movements, a whisper of creativity translated into metal and electricity, a gentle echo of the human desire to touch, to learn, to understand. And as you watch, your mind begins to imagine the next challenge. How the robot will interact not just with a stationary stone, but with an object that drifts unpredictably, its movement shaped by gravity, inertia, and chance. You feel a soft anticipation, knowing that the quiet patience of the machine will meet the restless motion of the asteroid. The dance of exploration continues, moving from stillness to interaction, from observation to gentle engagement. The void stretches endlessly, and yet your thoughts find a thread that connects machine and rock, mind and matter, intention and action. You feel a calm sense that even in emptiness, care and intelligence can extend into spaces your body cannot reach. You let your imagination linger on this idea, feeling a subtle thrill as the robot adjusts its tools, responding with quiet accuracy to the asteroid's slightest tremor. And in this suspended moment, the notion of gravity begins to rise in your mind, how even light pulls and tugs will guide movement, how invisible forces shape every touch and motion. You realize that the next lesson awaits, a deeper understanding of the subtle, silent power that governs all motion in the void, the quiet pull that links you, the asteroid, and the robot in a gentle, cosmic rhythm. The hum of circuits fades softly into the background of your mind as you drift toward that thought, imagining the slow, steady sway of gravity's influence, and the silent cadence of space that will carry you into the next discovery. You drift in the quiet expanse, weightless, with the asteroid just a slow heartbeat away. There is no up or down here, only motion guided by invisible tethers, a subtle choreography of celestial forces. You stretch your hand toward the rock, noticing that even the lightest touch sends a gentle ripple through your body. Each movement requires awareness, a slow negotiation with the unseen pull of gravity that clings softly to everything in this void. The asteroid itself seems to float lazily, its shape irregular, tumbling slightly in a pattern that feels both random and deliberate. You watch it turn, studying how its motion influences your own drift. A small nudge in one direction sends you spinning, a gentle rotation that reminds you that here, momentum is patient, and every push echoes quietly for a long time. You let yourself sway with it, feeling the slow, hypnotic rhythm of motion and countermotion. Tiny fragments of rock float alongside you, spinning independently, orbiting the larger stone like tiny satellites. Each is a miniature dance, influenced by gravity and inertia, by forces that are invisible yet unyielding. You watch them and marvel at the silent rules they follow, their paths governed by laws as old as the stars. You imagine that if you move too quickly, Too suddenly, these small dancers could drift forever out of reach, a reminder that even in emptiness, care and patience are essential. Your mind begins to map the subtle pull of the asteroid on your own body. It is minuscule compared to the gravity you feel on Earth, yet you sense it with surprising clarity. Your body becomes a pendulum, swaying in harmony with the stone, responding to tiny forces you cannot see but can feel. There is a quiet lesson here. In the void, power is gentle, persistent, and invisible. You notice that understanding it requires attention, presence, and a willingness to move slowly, letting the rhythm guide you rather than forcing your own pace. You drift closer, imagining the robot you watched earlier extending its arm to meet this spinning rock. Its movements must account for every gentle tug and every minuscule shift, every push of inertia. You realize that operating in space is a dance of anticipation, of listening with sensors and adjusting in silence. There is a beauty in this careful negotiation, a meditation in motion, a reminder that control comes not from strength, but from alignment with the natural rhythm of forces at play. The asteroid's surface reflects faint starlight, glinting in scattered patterns as it turns. You notice how the shadows stretch and fold, bending with the curves and craters. Your gaze follows them slowly, tracing the contours, imagining how even a tiny disturbance, a brush of a tool, a floating pebble, would ripple through the asteroid's subtle rotation. You sense a quiet intimacy with the rock, a recognition that its movements are deliberate, shaped by billions of years of collisions, spins, and silent drift. As you drift, the silence grows more profound, almost tangible, a companion to your thoughts. The void is not empty, you realize. It is filled with the gentle tug of gravity, the soft sway of mass, the invisible threads that link every stone, dust particle, and planet. You feel your breathing slow, matching the asteroid's rotation, the subtle rhythm of inertia and pull. You are part of this quiet symphony, a weightless observer in a universe that moves with infinite patience. Small pieces of debris float past, some tumbling lazily, others spinning with a brisker pace. You reach out, letting your hand follow their motion, sensing how each object responds to forces you cannot see. The dance is quiet, meditative, a slow reminder that motion is everywhere, shaping the cosmos in ways both delicate and persistent. Even as you watch, you notice how the tiniest adjustments, your own drift, a soft exhale, a slight shift in your orientation, can change the trajectory of movement in subtle but meaningful ways. You begin to imagine how the next step in exploration might feel. Robots moving with the same sensitivity, adjusting to light gravity, anticipating motion, and balancing each push with care. You realize that mastering these forces requires patience, a rhythm of attention, and the humility to let the universe lead. There is an intimacy here, a soft connection between mind, machine, and stone, where understanding comes from quiet observation as much as from action. The pull of the asteroid is steady, almost hypnotic. You let yourself sway, feeling each gentle tug, sensing how movement is never abrupt here. Every turn, every spin, every drift carries the lessons of celestial mechanics, that even in seeming emptiness, forces act subtly, persistently, and beautifully. You imagine that each asteroid carries its own unique rhythm, its own gravitational signature, waiting for patient minds and careful machines to discover it. And in this quiet moment, as you float among tumbling stones, your thoughts begin to drift toward the next wonder. The microscopic dust and fragments that swirl around the asteroids, each with its own history, each dancing delicately in response to these gentle forces. You realize that just as gravity shapes motion on a grand scale, it also guides the tiniest grains, creating a choreography that is invisible to the eye but present to the heart. You drift slowly, your mind resting on the invisible lines of pull and push, the patient whispers of forces that have existed for eons. And as sleep begins to brush the edges of your consciousness, you feel the subtle promise of the next discovery. The delicate, mesmerizing dance of dust and stone, a quiet ballet that awaits your gaze and the careful movements of machines. In this gentle cadence, you let the universe cradle your thoughts, preparing you to witness the choreography of the smallest particles, moving softly and endlessly across the silent stage of space. You drift closer to the asteroid, and your attention shifts from the large stone to the smallest particles that surround it. Tiny grains float freely, weightless, spinning in slow, graceful arcs. Some glint with faint metallic gleams, others shimmer like fine sand, catching distant starlight for just a fleeting moment. You notice how they drift, weaving delicate patterns in the void, each particle tracing its own path while still subtly influenced by the asteroid's gentle pull. The motion feels like a slow dance, almost imperceptible yet endlessly precise. As you observe, a robot moves near the asteroid's surface. Its tools touch lightly, brushing against ridges and crevices, nudging small stones into motion. You watch as these particles scatter, spinning and tumbling in response, creating a miniature choreography of rock and dust. Each fragment seems alive in its movement, as if it carries the memory of every collision, every journey through the solar system. You imagine that the robot is leading the dance, while the dust follows instinctively, responding to every gentle motion. You focus on the particles closest to you. Tiny motes drift lazily, rotating slowly, glimmering with quiet histories embedded in their structure. Some are crystalline, formed under heat and pressure, others jagged, shaped by countless impacts over eons. You let your mind trace their journeys, from the core of a star to the outer reaches of the solar system, finally arriving here, floating in silence. You feel your thoughts slow with each imagined path, each cosmic voyage folding into the stillness of your awareness. The asteroid itself seems to pulse softly with these movements. Its surface shifts minutely as tools and debris interact, each ripple carefully measured by gravity, inertia, and the robot's delicate adjustments. You notice the way the dust responds, creating spirals and arcs that would vanish instantly in a chaotic environment. But here, in the vacuum, there is patience. A slow, steady rhythm in which every particle has time and space to move with purpose. You breathe slowly, your own movements synchronized with this gentle ballet. As the robot works, you sense the connection between mechanical precision and natural motion. Its arms glide with careful consideration, adjusting for even the subtlest wobble or drift. Each tool is guided by sensors, detecting texture, density, and angle, translating information into motion with unerring accuracy. You feel a quiet comfort imagining how technology can extend human touch into environments we could never navigate alone, handling the delicate with care, and preserving the gentle harmony of the asteroid's surface. Small clouds of dust rise with each interaction, swirling slowly around the robot's arms. You imagine them as tiny dancers, spinning in invisible currents, each carrying a trace of metal, ice, or mineral. Some particles collide softly with one another, creating subtle sparks of energy that shimmer for a heartbeat before fading. You watch these microcosms with wonder, imagining how even the smallest grains are connected to the largest forces: gravity, momentum, and the slow, steady influence of distant celestial bodies. The dance continues, each movement teaching you something about balance and patience. You notice how the robot anticipates shifts, how it adjusts its grip to prevent particles from scattering uncontrollably. There is a rhythm here, a slow give and take that mirrors the quiet pulse of the asteroid itself. You feel your mind settling into this rhythm, your thoughts flowing gently like the drifting dust, unhurried, absorbing the subtleties of motion and reaction. You start to notice patterns forming among the dust. Tiny arcs and spirals emerge, moving like a gentle river frozen in slow motion. You imagine the collisions that shaped each fragment, impacts from other rocks, glancing blows from comets, the persistent brush of micrometeoroids over billions of years. Each grain tells a story, a silent chronicle of cosmic history, a narrative written in texture, color, and trajectory. You feel honored to witness this quiet documentation, floating among particles that have existed far longer than human memory. The asteroid's metallic veins glimmer faintly beneath the dust, catching the robot's tools as they sweep gently across the surface. You watch as the interplay of light and shadow highlights both the machine and the moving dust, a visual symphony of stone, metal, and motion. The dust swirls, guided by the invisible pull of gravity and the robot's deliberate movements, forming arcs that almost resemble the brushstrokes of an artist painting with light. Your mind lingers on the beauty of this subtle collaboration between human design, robotic precision, and the patient work of nature. You imagine what it would be like to float among these particles yourself. How lightly you would have to move to avoid disturbing the dance. How slowly your hands would need to adjust to match the rhythm of dust and stone. Each gesture would need to be measured, intentional, in harmony with forces invisible but ever-present. You feel the quiet lesson of the asteroid, that even the tiniest elements matter, that care, patience, and attention can preserve beauty, balance, and history. And yet, the dance is far from simple. Some particles resist, tumbling unpredictably, testing the robot's ability to adapt. You notice how its sensors detect each anomaly, how its arms adjust without haste, responding to small shifts with careful motion. The machine embodies patience, learning from the resistance of matter without forcing its will, and you sense a deep respect for this silent collaboration. There is no rush here, only the slow unfolding of a cosmic rhythm that has existed for eons. The asteroid, the robot, and the dust form a quiet ecosystem of motion, where every element responds to forces both visible and invisible. You feel the subtle harmony of the scene, the delicate balance between action and reaction. Your thoughts drift along the spirals of particles, absorbing the slow, elegant patterns that emerge from countless minor adjustments. You notice the soft whisper of momentum, the invisible tug of gravity, the gentle friction that shapes each floating mote. And as you watch, your mind begins to prepare for a new perspective. The way intelligence observes all of this, how sensors and eyes can capture what human vision cannot. You sense that the next step in your journey will be to see not just the motion, but the clarity of observation itself. How robotic perception transforms drifting chaos into information, understanding, and insight. The dust continues its gentle dance, spiraling, colliding, and floating in silent arcs. You breathe slowly, letting the scene lull you, letting your mind drift along with each tiny particle. And as your attention rests on the quiet choreography, you realize the next wonder is already waiting. Eyes that never blink, watching, listening, and understanding the asteroid in ways only careful observation can reveal. You float in the quiet expanse near the asteroid, your eyes tracing the uneven surface as the robot's sensors glide over ridges, craters, and metallic veins. There is more here than what meets the eye. Beneath the rough textures, beneath the dust that dances softly around the stone, lie secrets forged billions of years ago. Metals and minerals, hidden yet persistent, are the memory of stars that lived long before the Earth was born. You feel a quiet reverence for their existence, knowing that each particle is a messenger from the cosmos, carrying tales older than imagination. The asteroid rotates slowly, its uneven surface catching distant starlight in faint, flickering glimmers. You notice streaks of metal embedded in stone, silvery veins that seem to pulse softly as if breathing in rhythm with the universe. You imagine these metals were born in the heart of ancient stars, forged in fires so immense that their energy shaped atoms into forms that would one day drift through space to meet you. Each fragment carries the imprint of creation, a fingerprint from the cosmos itself, waiting to be understood. Your mind drifts along the journey of these elements. They were once part of a star that exploded, scattering its contents across space in a supernova's brilliant finale. Some atoms traveled millions of miles through the vacuum, colliding occasionally with other particles, gradually combining into grains that became part of an asteroid. You imagine these elements, carried on invisible winds of interstellar gas, slowly coalescing, patiently forming veins of iron, nickel, platinum, and more. The timescales are unfathomable, yet they feel gentle, deliberate, like the slow breathing of the universe. You focus on a metallic vein glinting beneath a patch of dust. The robot extends its delicate instruments, brushing lightly against the surface, sensing density, detecting composition. You imagine it tracing the history of the metal, mapping its atomic memory, discovering its ancient journey without disturbing its presence. There is patience in this process, a quiet understanding that knowledge is gained not through force but through observation, through care, through the gentle interaction between machine and asteroid. The dust swirls softly around you as fragments of rock and ice rise in response to the robot's movements. Each particle carries a trace of the asteroid's long story, a record of collisions, fusions, and cosmic drift. You watch as the robot's sensors interpret the signals, translating them into data that will allow humans to understand the asteroid's composition, its history, and its potential. You feel a deep calm in knowing that even in the silence of space, intelligence can listen, can decode, and can honor the patient work of nature. You begin to consider what this hidden wealth means, not merely in the sense of metals or minerals to be extracted, but in knowledge, the understanding of processes that shaped the solar system, the tracing of cosmic origins, the ability to read the silent histories written in stone. Each vein of metal is a page from the universe's archive, each particle a word in a story billions of years old. You breathe slowly, letting the weight of that knowledge settle softly in your mind. The asteroid is not uniform. Some areas are harder, denser, forged under the heat of repeated collisions. Others are fragile, porous, holding tiny cavities that might contain ice or rare minerals. You imagine how the robot navigates these variations, its instruments adjusting with precise sensitivity, responding to differences in density, composition, and resistance. Every movement is deliberate, a dialogue with the asteroid that preserves its integrity while uncovering its secrets. You feel the quiet poetry of this collaboration. Knowledge gathered through respect, through patience, through careful touch. You focus on the platinum group metals hidden beneath layers of stone. They glint faintly in the robot's sensors, subtle sparks that hint at extraordinary density. You imagine these atoms formed in stellar furnaces, fused under unimaginable pressure and temperature, only to be carried across the void and embedded in a drifting rock. You feel a soft awe, recognizing that these metals are not just resources. They are fragments of cosmic history, relics of processes that occurred long before humans walked the earth. The iron and nickel veins tell a different story, one of slow cooling, of differentiation and separation, of chemical dance over eons. You imagine how heat from radioactive decay might have seeped through the asteroid, gradually shifting atoms into layers of density, creating the patterns now revealed by robotic sensors. Each mineral, each metallic layer, is a record of time, of forces acting gently but persistently, sculpting matter with a quiet patience that stretches across billions of years. Your mind drifts to the smaller particles, those dust grains that the robot observes with such care. Even these tiny fragments contain a record of the cosmos, tiny archives of chemical composition, isotopic signatures, and the memory of collisions. You sense a gentle rhythm, from the smallest dust grain to the largest metallic vein. Every piece carries knowledge, every fragment whispers history. You float among these secrets, letting your mind absorb the quiet lessons embedded in matter itself. The robot pauses for a moment, its sensors fixed on a patch where metal meets stone. You imagine the careful calculations it performs, assessing density, predicting the reaction of nearby material, determining the safest way to examine the asteroid without disturbing its balance. You feel a soft appreciation for this silent intelligence, a calm understanding that exploration is not a violent act, but a gentle inquiry. There is a rhythm here, a lullaby of precision, curiosity, and cosmic patience. You drift slowly, noticing how the asteroid's surface changes subtly under observation. Tiny cracks become more apparent, faint glimmers reveal previously hidden veins, and the dust reacts to the robot's careful touch. You realize that discovery is layered. First comes observation, then understanding, and finally the gentle uncovering of what lies beneath. You feel a quiet reverence for the patience required, for the humility needed to allow knowledge to emerge without forcing it. And as you float among these veins of metal, following their ancient paths through stone, you feel a connection to the cosmos. Each atom is a reminder that everything is connected. The explosion of a star, the drift of particles through space, the creation of an asteroid, and now your own presence, observing, learning, and understanding. The universe, in its vastness, feels intimate, and your mind drifts along with the slow, deliberate movements of rock, dust, and metal. You notice the subtle promise that lies in these discoveries. Not only the metals themselves, but the stories they carry, the processes, the forces, the patient history of billions of years encoded in atoms. You feel a soft anticipation of what comes next. The challenge of interacting with this delicate structure, of balancing curiosity and care, of taming the unpredictable motion of space without disturbing the quiet story preserved in metal and stone. And as you linger on this thought, a gentle question forms in your mind. How does one navigate uncertainty with care, bringing order to chaos without forcing it? You feel the answer approaching, like a soft wave on the edge of consciousness, leading you toward the next chapter. The delicate, rhythmic negotiation of, you drift near the asteroid, watching its uneven surface shift imperceptibly under the subtle influence of microgravity. Even the slightest push sends rocks drifting unpredictably, small particles tumbling in slow arcs. You feel a quiet tension, not of fear, but of awe. This is a dance of chance, of chaos, and you realize that interacting with it requires gentle patience. Here, the void does not forgive haste. Every movement, every adjustment, must be deliberate, measured, and aware. The robot extends its arms slowly, sensor scanning, predicting, calculating the paths of tumbling fragments. Its movements are soft, careful, almost like a dancer following an unseen rhythm. You imagine that every joint, every gripper, every pivot is aware of the tiniest resistance, the subtlest shift in balance. Even a minuscule collision could send particles spinning away forever, lost to the vastness of space. And yet, in this careful negotiation, there is beauty, a quiet choreography of engineering and understanding, where order emerges from uncertainty. Small rocks drift past the robot, guided by the asteroid's uneven pull. The mechanical arms adjust, nudging particles into gentle orbits, stabilizing surfaces, and guiding loose fragments without force. You sense a rhythm forming, a steady flow of interaction where chaos is met not with resistance but with patient guidance. The universe, in its apparent unpredictability, allows these movements when approached with mindfulness, when handled with care. You feel yourself breathing along with this rhythm, your mind slowing to match the cadence of motion and adjustment. The asteroid's surface is unpredictable. Tiny fissures open beneath the robot's grippers, sending small stones wobbling in microgravity. You imagine the calculations it performs in an instant, predicting the path of each fragment, adjusting the strength and angle of grip, compensating for the tiniest shift in mass. There is a quiet poetry in this process, a meditation in motion, a harmony between technology and the natural unpredictability of matter. You feel a gentle admiration for the intelligence that can turn chaos into a measured, flowing interaction. Dust swirls lazily around you as small rocks tumble in arcs dictated by gravity and inertia. You watch how the robot anticipates, moving with a patience that borders on elegance. Each adjustment is gentle, almost imperceptible, but crucial. You imagine yourself performing the same motions. Every touch must be precise, every movement accounted for. You feel the tension of responsibility soften into calm, reassured by the deliberate, rhythmic handling of these ancient stones. You notice the asteroid itself seeming to respond, not in consciousness, but in motion. Fragments settle into new positions, rocks spin more slowly, and surfaces stabilize as the robot works. Chaos is not eliminated. It is guided, shaped, and understood. You feel the lesson in this. Patience is a form of control, observation a tool for gentle correction, and understanding the key to maintaining balance in an environment that is both delicate and dynamic. Your mind drifts to the physics underlying these motions. Every push, every nudge is a negotiation with inertia, mass, and microgravity. Tiny shifts cascade into subtle rotations, minute collisions send fragments spinning, and yet, through careful calculation, the robot navigates these forces gracefully. You feel a soft admiration for the laws of the universe, their predictability and subtlety, and the intelligence that can harmonize with them. There is a lullaby in this awareness. Order can emerge from chaos when approached with attention, care, and understanding. You watch as one particularly jagged fragment wobbles unpredictably, threatening to roll into a small crater. The robot pauses, sensors recalculating, its arms adjusting in microseconds. You imagine the internal logic, predicting paths, estimating friction, accounting for mass and rotation. And then, with a quiet grace, it nudges the fragment, guiding it into a more stable position. You feel a gentle thrill at this demonstration of patient control, of skillful alignment with the forces of nature. The asteroid's surface seems alive with micromovements, subtle shifts that would be imperceptible from afar. Dust grains move in slow arcs, small stones adjust their rotation, and tiny fragments wobble delicately under the push of robotic influence. You sense a pattern emerging, a rhythm in which chaos and order coexist. The robot is both participant and observer, guiding, measuring, and responding with infinite patience. You let your mind float alongside this rhythm, breathing slowly, aligning with the gentle pulse of motion. You begin to imagine the broader significance. This delicate negotiation is more than just moving rocks. It is a practice in understanding how to interact with unpredictable systems. Every adjustment teaches a lesson about observation, anticipation, and care. Every patient nudge preserves history, prevents loss, and ensures that the story encoded in these ancient stones is not disrupted. You feel a deep sense of respect for the intelligence that can work with chaos instead of against it. Small clouds of dust continue their lazy spirals around the asteroid. You notice how the robot accounts for their unpredictable trajectories, predicting their movements, adjusting its grip and position to maintain balance and stability. You sense the quiet wisdom in this. In a world of uncertainty, careful attention and patience can transform potential disorder into graceful harmony. You let this thought wash over you, feeling your mind settle, carried gently by the rhythm of movement and correction. You focus on the interplay between force and response. Every push must be matched by an equal and deliberate adjustment. The tiniest resistance is detected, processed, and countered with care. You imagine that in space, every decision is magnified. A miscalculation can send a fragment spinning endlessly. A single error can disrupt the fragile balance of matter. And yet, through understanding and patience, even chaos can be shaped into an elegant flow. You feel a soft reassurance in this realization, as if the universe itself is teaching you a lullaby of balance and attention. The asteroid, the robot, and the dust move together in this quiet dance. You feel your own body drifting in sympathy, weightless, gentle, unhurried. You notice the subtle shifts in perspective as fragments roll and tumble, how the robot's arms adjust in microseconds to maintain stability. There is a rhythm here, slow and deliberate, that resonates with your mind and body. You sense the lesson. In patience, there is harmony. In observation, there is understanding. In careful action, there is control without force. And as you float among the asteroid's subtle motions, your thoughts begin to drift toward energy. The hidden pulses, the thermal shifts, the faint magnetic whispers that the robot can sense but your eyes cannot. You feel a gentle anticipation of what comes next. The quiet hum of energy, the invisible currents that flow through stone and metal alike, waiting to be felt, measured, and understood. The asteroid continues its slow, tumbling rotation. The dust spirals lazily in response, and the robot's arms move in gentle arcs to maintain balance. You feel a sense of calm assurance. Even in apparent chaos, careful attention, patience, and thoughtful interaction can create a quiet, harmonious flow. And as you drift, your mind reaches toward the next discovery, the subtle, whispering energy that animates. You float above the asteroid, weightless, drifting among dust and tumbling stones, and slowly your attention shifts from matter to the invisible. There is a quiet energy humming through the rock, a pulse so subtle it would escape human notice, but one that resonates through space itself. Thermal currents radiate softly, spreading heat from sunlit surfaces to shaded craters. Kinetic energy lingers in the spin of tumbling fragments. Magnetic fields pulse faintly through veins of metal, whispering their ancient rhythms. You sense these forces not with your eyes, but with your awareness, a gentle hum beneath perception. The asteroid seems alive in this way, not conscious, but animated by forces that have existed for billions of years. You imagine the faint warmth of a sunlit ridge, the tiny sparks of energy transferred through friction as grains of dust rub together. Every particle, every fragment, carries energy, a quiet potential waiting to be noticed, measured, and perhaps harnessed. You breathe slowly, letting your mind drift along these soft waves, feeling the universe's gentle heartbeat through heat, motion, and magnetism. The robot extends its instruments once more, scanning the surface with sensors attuned to subtle signals. You imagine it detecting thermal gradients, the faintest magnetic pulses, and the smallest shifts in momentum. Each reading is a translation of invisible forces into knowledge, a soft meditation on the silent energy that surrounds it. You feel a sense of calm reassurance that these machines can perceive what you cannot, can sense the quiet hums of matter and respond to them with precision and care. Kinetic energy is everywhere, expressed in the slow tumbling of the asteroid, in the spin of pebbles, and in the drift of microscopic dust. You imagine tracing each motion back to its origin. A collision billions of years ago, a slight gravitational tug, the echo of forces set in motion long before life existed on Earth. The robot's arms move in delicate synchrony, respecting the natural rhythm of motion while gently nudging fragments as needed. There is a quiet poetry in this interaction, a harmony between the energy of matter and the intelligence of its observer. Magnetic energy flows invisibly through veins of metal, subtle but persistent. You sense it in the alignment of particles, the interaction of charged grains, the pull and push of unseen fields. The robot maps these energies, translating them into patterns of understanding. You feel the gentle reassurance that even forces beyond human perception are accessible through careful observation. There is wisdom here, that patience and sensitivity can reveal the hidden structures of the universe, and that every pulse of energy carries a story. You begin to imagine the energy within the asteroid as a song, a quiet melody flowing through rock, metal, and dust. Thermal harmonies rise and fall as the sun's rays strike its surface. Kinetic rhythms play softly as fragments shift and tumble. Magnetic undertones hum faintly beneath it all, subtle but constant. You float among these waves, letting your mind follow the rhythm of invisible currents, absorbing the patterns, the whispers, the quiet knowledge that flows through matter itself. The robot responds to these signals with careful precision. Its sensors detect energy gradients and adjust movement accordingly, avoiding unintended collisions, preventing fragments from spinning away, and ensuring stability on uneven surfaces. You feel a calm wonder at the interplay between unseen forces and deliberate action, a quiet understanding that intelligence, human or mechanical, can harmonize with the subtle energies of nature rather than disrupt them. You notice how energy moves even in tiny dust grains. Friction generates microwaves, sunlight creates gentle thermal pulses, and faint magnetic interactions guide their orientation. These small forces are imperceptible individually, but together, they form a vast, intricate web of motion and potential. You sense that even in the quietest corners of space, nothing is truly still. Every grain, every particle, carries energy, waiting to be understood, appreciated, or harnessed. The asteroid's thermal energy rises in the sunlit craters, spilling slowly into the shaded depressions. You imagine the slow transfer, the way heat spreads gently, carrying information about the stone's structure, composition, and history. You feel the quiet patience of these processes, spanning hours, days, or centuries, and you realize that understanding energy is a practice in attentiveness, a meditation on forces that are ever present but often invisible. Kinetic energy follows its own rhythm. The rotation of the asteroid, the wobble of fragments, the spin of dust clouds, each movement is subtle yet persistent. You notice how the robot predicts these motions, adjusting its grip and balance in response. You feel the soft lesson here. Patience and observation allow action to harmonize with natural forces, turning potential chaos into ordered flow. You let your mind drift along this cadence, each shift of motion a gentle nudge toward calm understanding. Magnetic energy hums faintly through metallic veins, invisible but detectable through sensors. You imagine tiny forces aligning grains, guiding the orientation of particles, shaping interactions in subtle ways. The robot maps these patterns, translating invisible whispers into knowledge. You sense a quiet thrill at this process, a recognition that energy, though unseen, is everywhere, shaping matter, guiding motion, and offering insight to those patient enough to listen. You begin to imagine how these energies could be harnessed. Not violently, not greedily, but carefully, gently. Thermal gradients might power instruments. Kinetic motion could drive mechanisms. Magnetic fields could provide orientation and control. The robot's careful interaction transforms raw potential into usable understanding. You feel a soft calm in this vision, a reassurance that the universe's hidden forces can be respected and understood, rather than exploited recklessly. Dust and fragments continue their lazy spirals around the asteroid, following paths dictated by gravity, momentum, and subtle energy flows. You float among them, letting your mind trace their arcs, sensing the rhythm of motion, the pulse of heat, the faint hum of magnetic currents. Everything feels connected. Movement, energy, observation, and understanding form a gentle tapestry, weaving you into the quiet music of the cosmos. The robot's sensors sweep again, capturing waves of energy invisible to human eyes. You imagine these readings traveling across space, feeding into human knowledge, revealing the silent dynamics of matter and energy in ways we could never perceive directly. You feel a soft thrill of wonder, a reminder that understanding often lies in patience, in careful attention, and in the willingness to perceive what is subtle, hidden, or ephemeral. And as you drift above the asteroid, you feel a gentle pull toward the next discovery. The connection between worlds, the quiet ripples that link human hands to robotic tools, Earth to asteroid, observer to observed. You sense that energy is not just contained within matter, but flows across distances, shaping interaction and understanding, guiding exploration in ways that are both subtle and profound. You float in the stillness of space, watching the asteroid turn slowly beneath the robotic arms that move with patient precision. Dust swirls lazily, tiny fragments orbiting in silent arcs. And yet, despite the vast distance between you and Earth, you feel a subtle connection threading through space. Every movement of the robot, every nudge of a particle, every reading it takes, travels as information across millions of miles, carrying knowledge from this ancient rock to the minds of humans far away. The distance is immense, yet it feels bridged by curiosity, care, and intelligence. You imagine the path of a single message, a stream of data from a sensor on the asteroid, racing invisibly across the void, passing through networks and antennas, finally arriving at Earth. Their human eyes interpret it, translating the robot's observations into understanding. You sense the quiet magic in this chain, a delicate interplay of perception, communication, and learning that links your presence here to people who have never seen the asteroid but now know its secrets. It is a gentle echo, a ripple stretching across space, connecting worlds in a silent conversation. The robot moves again, carefully adjusting a small fragment of rock that threatens to tumble unpredictably. You watch its arms glide, precise and deliberate, guided by sensors that detect each subtle shift. Every movement is mirrored in data, each adjustment recorded and transmitted, a quiet dialogue between distant intelligence and the material world. You feel a soft reassurance that even in the void, care and attentiveness allow exploration to happen without disruption, and that every action taken here has a ripple that reaches far beyond the asteroid itself. You notice the asteroid's surface under the robot's scrutiny, the interplay between dust, stone, and metallic veins. Each fragment, each particle is catalogued, observed, and understood. And yet, there is poetry in this precision. The story of the cosmos, billions of years in the making, now accessible through patient observation. You feel your mind drift with the patterns of light, shadow, and movement, sensing that the asteroid, the robot, and you are all part of a larger network. A subtle, elegant web connecting minds, machines, and matter. The Earth is a distant, fragile blue, in the background, serene and luminous. You imagine scientists monitoring the data, adjusting instructions, sending new commands for the robot to follow. Each choice they make echoes across space, shaping interactions, preserving balance, and maintaining harmony. You feel a quiet comfort in this collaboration, a reassurance that curiosity and intelligence can span distance and time, linking human thought with mechanical precision in a gentle, continuous conversation. You begin to notice the invisible threads of influence that stretch between worlds. The robot's careful adjustments, informed by Earth's instructions, stabilize tumbling rocks. Dust clouds settle in predictable arcs. Energy is conserved, motion flows gently, and knowledge accumulates. You sense that every action, no matter how small, reverberates outward, a whisper of care and understanding connecting Earth, machine, and asteroid. You feel a soft, meditative calm, knowing that exploration is not a one-way street, but a conversation spanning the void. The asteroid itself seems to respond to this dialogue. Its rotation, the tumbling of fragments, and the subtle magnetic pulses are all observed, measured, and integrated into the decisions of robotic motion. You imagine the layers of connection. Sensors detect energy and movement, data flows to Earth, humans interpret and respond, instructions return to the asteroid, and the cycle continues. It is a quiet echo of interconnectedness, a reminder that discovery is not isolated but relational, built on attention, care, and responsiveness. You focus on the tiny dust spirals drifting around the asteroid. Each mode is influenced by gravity, momentum, and the robot's presence, yet also by subtle forces that ripple from Earth's distant instructions. You sense a quiet wonder in this chain of influence, realizing that intelligence can link worlds, that understanding can travel vast distances, and that even in the emptiness of space, actions have resonance. The dust becomes a gentle metaphor for connection. Small, delicate, yet meaningful, dancing in rhythm with forces both seen and unseen. The robot's sensors sweep the asteroid's surface again, capturing details invisible to human eyes. You imagine the human scientists interpreting the readings, seeing the faint traces of metals, the alignment of particles, the subtle energy flows. Each observation adds to the quiet story of the asteroid, a narrative preserved across distance and time. You feel the same calm that comes from reading a well-loved book, the reassurance that patient observation can reveal hidden layers of beauty and complexity, even in a seemingly remote and lifeless rock. You sense the gentle continuity of this interaction. The asteroid moves, the robot responds, data flows, humans interpret, and instructions return. It is a cycle of care, intelligence, and attention. You feel connected to it all, your awareness floating alongside the network of observation and action. There is no rush here, only patient harmony, a quiet understanding that even vast distances cannot sever the threads of curiosity, care, and knowledge. The night sky stretches endlessly, reflecting the Earth, the asteroid, and the machines as a single interconnected whole. You feel a sense of reflection in this view. Exploration is not just about reaching outward, but also about understanding the relationships between observer and observed, between motion and measurement, between intelligence and matter. You feel a gentle awe, a soft reverence for the subtle threads that connect you, the asteroid, the robot, and the humans far away. You notice the micro-adjustments of the robot's arms, the tiny nudges of dust, the slow arcs of tumbling fragments. Each motion is part of a rhythm that spans space and time, a quiet dance linking worlds. You imagine that these small, patient movements echo back to Earth in ways both literal and symbolic, reinforcing a connection between curiosity, care, and discovery. The echo is soft, subtle, yet profound, a reminder that observation, attention, and gentle interaction can reach across the void. You feel the asteroid's story settling softly into your awareness. The metals, the dust, the energy, and the motion are all interconnected, creating a tapestry of knowledge, preserved and shared through the careful work of machines and humans alike. You sense that understanding is a bridge, not a destination, and that discovery is as much about the connections formed as the facts revealed. You breathe slowly, letting this network of influence and attention wash over you, carrying a sense of peace, wonder, and belonging. And as the asteroid continues its slow rotation, the dust spirals lazily in response, and the robot's sensors sweep over the surface once more. You feel the quiet anticipation of the final chapter. The completion of work, the harmony of machine, asteroid, and observer, and the gentle drift toward cosmic rest. You sense that the universe, in its patient rhythm, has much more to teach, and that even as the night draws near, curiosity, care, and reflection continue to ripple softly between worlds. You drift in the quiet expanse, suspended in weightlessness, the asteroid turning slowly beneath you. Dust spirals lazily in microgravity, small fragments orbiting like tiny moons. The robot completes its delicate tasks, moving with patient precision, extending arms and sensors in gentle arcs, adjusting to every shift in mass, every subtle vibration of the surface. You notice how effortless it appears, yet know that each movement is the culmination of careful calculation, patience, and understanding. There is no rush here, only the rhythm of observation, the steady cadence of action, and the quiet presence of thought. The asteroid's surface glows faintly under distant starlight. Metallic veins shimmer, dust clouds drift, and tiny craters capture the subtle reflections of the universe beyond. You sense the deep history etched in every surface, the echoes of collisions, the whispers of elements born in ancient stars, all patiently preserved. Your mind slows in response to the stillness, and you feel yourself becoming part of the quiet meditation that surrounds this cosmic scene. Every rock, every particle, every metallic glint is a note in the lullaby of space. The robot's sensors sweep methodically over the asteroid, tracing patterns invisible to human eyes, capturing data, and responding to subtle shifts. You imagine the information flowing across space to Earth, where minds interpret it, learn from it, and guide the machines with careful instructions. There is a sense of calm in this connectivity, a reassurance that even across vast distances, care, attention, and intelligence can harmonize. You feel connected to this network, an observer of the quiet dialogue between worlds, suspended in the gentle balance of matter, motion, and knowledge. You notice the tiny dust particles drifting around the asteroid. Each one responds to gravitational tugs, subtle energy pulses, and the robot's gentle interventions. You imagine them as dancers, moving to a rhythm invisible yet undeniable, choreographed by the forces that shape the cosmos. The robot moves among them with care, nudging where necessary, observing where stillness is sufficient. You feel a gentle lesson here. Harmony is created not through force but through awareness, patience, and respect for the natural rhythms of the universe. Thermal currents ripple softly across sunlit ridges, radiating warmth into shaded craters. Magnetic fields pulse faintly through metallic veins. Kinetic energy hums in spinning fragments. You drift among these invisible whispers, feeling the pulse of energy in your mind rather than with your eyes. The asteroid is alive, not conscious, but vibrant in subtle ways, carrying the story of stars, collisions, and cosmic patience. You let your thoughts float with it, attuned to the quiet music of energy, movement, and matter in perfect equilibrium. The robot pauses occasionally, sensors fixed on areas of interest, adjusting tools and grippers in a delicate dance of intelligence. You imagine it as a conductor, orchestrating fragments, dust, and energy into a soft symphony of exploration. Every action is deliberate, every movement a negotiation with forces that are invisible yet persistent. You feel the gentle reassurance that even in the unpredictable void, order can emerge, guided by patience, observation, and care. You let your mind absorb this rhythm, your thoughts slowing to match the measured cadence of the machines. You think of Earth, distant and luminous, a blue dot reflecting in the black sky. Data travels silently across the void, linking the robot's careful work with the curiosity and expertise of humans far away. You sense the quiet dialogue. The asteroid communicates through its structure, energy, and movement. The robot interprets these messages, and humans respond with careful instruction. It is a network of intelligence and care, spanning millions of miles, quietly demonstrating that curiosity, respect, and patience can bridge any distance. The asteroid rotates gently, dust spirals drifting in arcs, and the robots move with seamless precision. You notice how each observation, each nudge, each calculation is a soft ripple across space. The asteroid seems to settle into a rhythm, responding predictably to the machines, which in turn adjust to its subtle shifts. You feel a profound calm in witnessing this interaction. Even in the vast emptiness, intelligence, patience, and care can create harmony, guiding matter and motion with gentle authority. Your body floats freely, your limbs weightless, your mind attuned to the quiet motions around you. You imagine yourself drifting along the asteroid's rotation, spinning with the dust, floating alongside the robots. The universe feels intimate, not distant. You feel your breathing slow, your heart rate softening, your thoughts merging with the quiet pulse of energy, gravity, and motion that permeates this scene. Sleep begins to brush at the edges of your awareness, and you allow it, gentle and unhurried, to fold around your consciousness. The metallic veins glint faintly, telling stories of creation in stars long extinguished. Tiny craters hold ice, mineral veins trace ancient paths, and dust spirals in silent arcs. Each observation, each measurement, each motion of the robot contributes to understanding, but also to a sense of wonder, a quiet appreciation of the cosmos. You sense that knowledge itself is a soft light in the darkness, a glow that illuminates without disturbing, that comforts without intruding. You notice how every movement of the asteroid, every spin of a fragment, every subtle shift in dust, carries a story. The universe is patient, timeless, and infinitely attentive. You feel yourself merging with its rhythm, your mind becoming one with the quiet cadence of motion and energy. Each robot adjustment, each gentle nudge of a particle, becomes a note in the lullaby that guides you toward rest. There is no hurry, no urgency. Only the slow unfolding of harmony, observation, and care. The robot's tasks are completing, surfaces stabilized, dust clouds settling. You feel the asteroid's ancient story preserved, its energy mapped, its metals traced, its movements understood. There is a profound calm in this, a recognition that careful observation and gentle interaction allow discovery without disruption. You breathe in slowly, exhaling with a sense of completion, and let the quiet weightlessness carry you further into relaxation. The night sky stretches endlessly, stars scattered like soft lanterns across the darkness. You imagine Earth far away, reflecting this same quiet, distant beauty. The asteroid, the robots, and you form a gentle triangle of connection, a meditative loop of intelligence, observation, and care. The universe hums softly, a lullaby in which matter, energy, and consciousness harmonize. You feel your body drifting, your mind unwinding, and your heart settling into the rhythm of cosmic quiet. You float alongside the asteroid one last time, sensing the soft energy, watching the robot's final movements, and letting the rhythm of microgravity, dust, and motion carry you gently forward. Sleep brushes closer, wrapping your awareness in softness, a quiet surrender to the patient and eternal cadence of the cosmos. Every element, from metals and dust to thermal pulses and magnetic whispers, becomes part of the gentle music guiding you toward rest. And as your thoughts drift into stillness, as your body floats weightless, and the robots finish their careful work, you feel a profound connection to the asteroid, to the machines, and to the universe itself.